We're going to kick off. This is, I guess, a couple of times we've tried to kick off a virtual summit in the Asia Pacific Japan region, but this is a promise, a really good reinitiation of our summits for this region. It's always hard with our US and EMEA co-parts to have a summit that just covers the whole world, which obviously means that we end up with some regions that end up in the on night times, 2 a.m. in the morning type thing for myself when the US summit goes on. So we definitely want to make sure that we're covering all of our awesome FinOps content across the whole world. And so, this will be the first for this year, but it will be the initiation of some more virtual summits as we head into 2024. We're going to recap some of the really awesome things that have happened in the FinOps Foundation, but also across the cloud service providers as they had their big conferences throughout the year. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the events and programs of work that we have for everyone here on the call in the APJ region. So it's always good to have JR on the call. It's nighttime for him, so it's kind of nice to actually be in a daytime for me and nighttime for JR. And then I'm going to pass over to him to kick us off into the slide deck.
Hey folks, JR Stormont here. I am Executive Director of the FinOps Foundation. And for those of you who didn't know who was just speaking, because he didn't introduce himself, that was Mike Fuller, who's the CTO of the FinOps Foundation and formerly ran FinOps at Atlassian. I'm based in San Diego, California, and been doing this FinOps thing for the FinOps Foundation for about 4 years, but in the space for about 12 or 13. And the foundation that you're joining here today is a part of the Linux Foundation. So we're a US-based nonprofit trade association. So we focus on advancing the people who do the work of FinOps. So folks like you all around the world, we've got about 15,000 people in the community now, which is amazing because 4 years ago we had 26 people. And so it's grown really amazingly. So many familiar faces already on the call. Good to see you all. The foundation itself is really focused around kind of 3 key areas. We're going to cover a bunch of programs. As Mike was saying, we've been doing these summits primarily for North America and European time zones. We're trying to get them more friendly for Asia Pacific time zones. So there's going to be a lot of things we're doing in this call, recapping of programs and letting you know what's been happening the last few months in the other territories, but we really want to get these going globally. I should have mentioned before we jumped in as well, this is not a webinar. So please do have your camera on. Please do talk in the chat. At the end, we're going to encourage you to have conversations. This is a community event. We're going to talk at you for about an hour, and then we'll have a chance to have interactions and chat from there. So the FinOps Foundation is focused around 3 key areas. The first one is community. So calls like this, events in person, we're going to talk about ability to make connections. The second area is education, training, professional development. We'll talk about some of the advances there. And we're going to announce the 10,000th person to be certified as FinOps on this call. Big announcement today we're really excited about. The third area is best practices standard specification. So Mike Fuller, who you heard from at the beginning, our CTO, owns that area and focuses around things like the FinOps framework and the FinOps open cost and usage specification. So we'll cover all those here shortly. So this last quarter has been, excuse me, wild. I just had dinner. I should have had more water before I started. We have had events all over the world. There was a great meetup in Sydney we're going to hear more about here shortly. There was a recent meetup in Tokyo, which was our first one in Japan. We've had events in Seattle, Munich, London, DC. I was down in Sao Paulo, first time ever in South America a couple months ago. We had an event in the Eiffel Tower in Paris. It's been really amazing to see this community come roaring back together after COVID. I want to remind you all as we get into this, as I mentioned, this is not a webinar, so you're going to get to interact. You're going to get to chat in the chat. A couple notes on our code of conduct. First of all, we do want you to contribute, but please be respectful of others. Please treat others and their ideas with respect. We don't like anybody to say negative things about other companies or other people on the call. If you're a vendor or a consultant of any kind, please share your knowledge and expertise, but please don't do adverts. Don't do sales pitches. Don't say things like, come start a trial, or here's a link to my service that you can buy. Instead, share stories as part of the conversation. And we don't allow any bots in here. The meeting is being recorded. We're going to post it to YouTube later. And some legal antitrust print on the bottom there. basically says, please don't share any confidential information on this call, particularly if you work for a publicly listed company. This is for publicly available information only. Great. Well, with that, we're going to do a little recap of the Foundation's programs globally in 23 before we get into some of the things happening in your region. Mike, over to you.
Yeah, so I guess, we have a range of different programs in play, and some of these sit in underneath myself at the foundation in the framework, the landscape, the assessments, all of the working groups that we have running. And this sort of helps us build a content pool of best practices for what is FinOps. And then we tie that then with programs of work to get that message out there, through our Slack community, through the community calls, which we'll hear more about coming into the APJ region soon. We've had roadshows as well across the world over the last 12 months as well. And so lots of in-person activities, but also tying that up with the online and virtual communities that we have formed that builds out the content that we have. And then from that, then we obviously offer training programs and certification programs, which we'll hear a little bit about soon. The jobs board, which we really would love to see more companies getting involved with listing their open roles, so we can help connect the dots of the individuals looking to build their careers with those companies looking for individuals to help them with FinOps. And then lately, we've started a FinOps BE or FinOps B program, which has been really lovely to see the amount of encouragement and positivity around that program. And then lastly, my colleague Joe Daly and Stacey Case, the really awesome FinOps pod. So if you haven't listened to that yet, give it a try. Apparently it's oddly good. So yeah, definitely give that a listen in. And then one of the programs of work that we've been working on and we've launched in the last month and a bit is State of FinOps. We do this every year. I think this is the fourth, if I'm correct, one of these that we've done. It's really, really positive for you to get the results of this from data.finops.org. But in order for that data to be useful for you, we need everybody to get in there and contribute their feedback to the State of FinOps. Take the survey. It's 40-ish questions. We've really painstakingly thought about every one of the questions we ask to make sure that we are trying to get the right, glean the right insights for you as your FinOps practice at a vendor or consultancy firm, or even the cloud providers themselves. We're definitely trying to find what a real, true representation of the State of FinOps is. So please go take the survey if you haven't already, and then be really excited about that. It should come out roughly February next year. We release the updated State of FinOps data.
Yeah, and this is the best way for you to contribute back to the community. We've got a ton of programs, but this is the fourth year of this, and it's so valuable information that comes out every year. It helps you as practitioners, helps analysts understand the space. It helps everybody out there. So please do take that. Really value your input. We've got about just a couple more weeks to take it. So we run a big global conference that I will say ahead of time, we don't yet have one in your region directly. We're focusing first on the two regions where we have the biggest set of FinOps practitioners. So we run one in San Diego, here in California, and then we're also announcing a FinOps X in Europe. We know it's a bit of a trek. Highly encourage you to come. A few of you were there at the last one. Actually, in the chat, anybody who attended the San Diego event this year? I see a couple folks. Want to give you a quick preview of what that event looks like. If you want to come out for it, we will have some scholarships available. If your company can't send you, those are by application, but it's a really great experience for you to come and meet others who are doing the FinOps practice. So let me kick off this video, and hopefully the sound won't be too loud for you. Good morning, San Diego. So good to see you all. The conference is about advancing you as individuals. I encourage you to go out there and find your people here and share ideas. We're here to learn and to connect. So welcome home.
It's always fun when you can connect with peers outside of the workplace, get those personal connections and longer-term connections and friends as well.
I was very impressed by the emphasis on community, the culture, learning from one another, making each other better.
We been on the FinOps journey for about 4 years now.
We need to understand that FinOps is not a race, it's a journey.
Having the opportunity to speak with people from all over the world who do the same kind of work that I do and who have faced or are in the middle of facing the same sorts of challenges that I've dealt with over the past 6.5 years was a really gratifying experience.
It's very inspiring, really learning a lot on what we want to do, fix it and move forward on our journey.
The energy and community at FinOps X is contagious.
It's such a fascinating combination of finance, tech, operations, strategy. You look right, you look left, you look behind you. There's somebody in the community ready to help you out.
The FinOps community means a lot to me. It is a place where I can call home. This is a great opportunity to continue to grow me, grow my team, and grow the company.
I'm super excited to see where this community continues to take us.
It's going to take all of us to continue to evolve this practice that really will have a great impact.
You are what drives this community forward. Tonight is about recognizing some of the outstanding contributions that you've all given.
Here at this conference, everybody is doing the same work. You're not alone when you're here. You can connect with peers, with colleagues, with future bosses, with future team members, all here sharing in the same experience, sharing their stories. Welcome home.
So that's FinOps X. And yes, that was Joe Daly, and it was also Tom Cruise. We had a special guest appearance by him. So yes, it is based on the West Coast of the US. There are direct flights from a lot of the places where all of you are. We're real close to LA, so I think often that's a good hub. The great thing about the conference is that you can kind of turn to anybody there and have a deep conversation about the FinOps practice, which is really special in a lot of ways. If anybody is interested in coming, we do have early bird tickets that are, available now. They're on sale for about another 2 or 3 weeks before they go up. And we're also now opening the call for speakers. So if you submit a talk and a talk that gets accepted, free ticket, of course. So definitely love to hear. We're looking for deep, 300 level content about how to do FinOps, how to build your practice, how to implement various parts of the framework, whether it be forecasting or anomalies or optimization, any of those areas. This call for proposals does close on the 1st of February. So definitely consider putting that in there if you want to attend. Cool. And with that, going to pass to Stacy Case, who is our VP of Training, Certification, and Professional Development, to talk about the developments on that side.
Awesome. Thank you so much, JR. There's been a lot happening in the FinOps Foundation when it comes to education, career development, and just certification in general. You can see on the screen here, I'm not going to name everything and list everything that we've built this year, but there have been a lot of new both professional and educational certifications and training that we've offered. A couple of things I want to highlight, though. One of the cool things that we put out this year was an enterprise training subscription. So for those of you that are at an enterprise that don't know where to start, this is a great option for you. Another thing that we just released, I almost said a month ago, but it was only the beginning of this month, is a brand new certification, and that's the FinOps Certified Engineer. So again, for folks that used to just take FinOps Certified Practitioner, this is an equivalent course, but it's designed specifically for the engineer and what it takes for you to do your job through the lens of FinOps. With that, there's been some really great, amazing accomplishments that we've done this year. As of today, our FinOps Certified Professional just toppled over 100. So we had a big push from folks from the last time we did this to today. So we now have over 100. And with that, we had an internal goal this year of trying to get to 10,000 total people that have been FinOps certified practitioners within the world. And I'm very happy to say that we met that goal, and even happier to say, if you go to the next slide, that she is on the call with us right now. And I'm very happy to introduce Faizah Hashrat. Excuse me, bad time to get a cough. I'll let you say something.
That's okay.
All right, congratulations on being the 10,000th person with Energy Australia. Can you just tell us maybe why it was important for you to earn your certification and what it means?
Yeah, thank you so much, Stacey. Just have a drink of water. Make sure you do. And I'm really pleased to be part of this summit. Thank you very much for inviting me here. So I've been part of the FinOps journey in Energy Australia over the last few years, and I've been referring to the work that is available for referring to on the FinOps website, and I've been able to set up a FinOps team in my company using all of that, and just because we have done that, we have started that very core team, FinOps based, just by following all of the domains that are listed on the website and just doing some R&D on the website. I thought, why don't we go and we subscribe for the courses and get the exam done. So I'm very pleased that I've passed the exam this month itself, and we have a team of 5 people now who will be taking the exam again, and I find it very, very useful, very useful.
Well, awesome. Well, we're very excited. We're very excited that you could join us for this call and that we actually can talk to the person that was the 10,000th person to earn the certification. So congratulations. And I'll turn it back over to Mike.
Thank you. Well done. Yeah, so I guess we talked about the working groups previously. In the, everything that we do, we put together, and the content we release is really driven by the practitioner. It's by the practitioner for the practitioner. And the FinOps framework, we try and hit as many of the capabilities as we can every year with some extra fresh content, recommendations, and practices. This year, we've done over 20 working groups that have published assets across our asset library, which Andrew just put into the chat. And talk about some of the favorite ones. I'm going to pass over to Andrew, and we're just going to cover some of the ones that we've done recently.
Hey, everyone. Thanks, Mike. First of all, thank you so much to our greater community for all of your contribution, your expertise. We would not have this library if it were not for you all. A couple of the top assets throughout the couple quarters here. We're not surprised to see the KPIs library and the commitment-based discount paper and matrix. I'm just so proud of everyone for pushing the envelope on going beyond educational content, instead creating utilities, real tools that other practitioners can use to better improve their FinOps practices. So I'm very happy to see that these two are definitely one of the top. We have a couple more to share here. We also saw a lot of guidance and stories on costs and managing cost anomalies, gamification, how to architect with cost consciousness in mind. Once again, just more hands-on practical content coming from the trenches, coming from practitioners like you all, built for practitioners like you all. So give yourselves a round of applause, pats on the back. I know it's hard to do on Zoom, but bear with us. Not only did we do a lot of great work together on the website as far as working group content goes, but we had to take a look and create a top list of FinOps X 2023 breakout sessions. You can watch the entirety of these on our YouTube channel. It was interesting to me as I was looking for top 2023 content to see 2022 videos still performant, still making a difference in the educational journeys of a lot of FinOps practitioners out in the world. And it just goes to show how great of an investment this is, in that people are sharing these stories and you're helping people from any starting point in their FinOps career. So like we said earlier, we encourage anyone to, first of all, attend X or XE if you can, but also if you have a really big idea you want to share, submit your proposal. We would love to see it. Back to you, JR and or Mike.
Yeah, shout out there on the top 10 list to Sara Gadallah from Atlassian, whose talk has been one of the most popular. Over to you, Mike, on Focus.
Thank you. At the beginning of the year, we started a sister project, or I guess a related project to the FinOps Foundation called Focus, which is a FinOps open cost and usage specification. If you haven't heard about it yet, then go check out focus.finops.org. The intent here is for us to formulate a specification, a schema definition for what cloud bills can look like for the best FinOps outcomes. We've seen practitioners, end users, vendor members, consultants, the GSIs, and providers themselves, including the big cloud providers, Microsoft, Google, and AWS, Oracle, and Tencent all join into focus. And earlier this year at this year's FinOps X, we announced the 0.5 version of Focus. Just recently, we announced that we're at 1.0 preview, and we're going to work on some feedback sessions over the next sort of 2 months, or month and a bit left now, with an intent to go 1.0 GA sometime around February. But in order to do that, we've formulated a FinOps use case library with the contributors of the Focus project, and that will enable us to walk back from the actual FinOps outcome we're looking for in order for the specification to be developed. And so we're going to do some feedback sessions to make sure we are covering all of your FinOps use cases and that we are thinking about them the right way. And that way the specification will sort of develop out. And you'll see some further updates through this presentation today where we have seeing Focus being adopted. In order to enable adoption, if we go to the next slide, we have the Focus Converter codebase, and we are close to 1.0 support for the 4 major providers, cloud providers. And the idea here is that this can take the cloud bills that you get from your existing provider and translate it into a Focus compliant schema. And so this code base is open source, available to everyone today. And we're just working on closing in on the last few rule sets for each of the cloud providers so that we can generate Focus data. It's not just a specification, but it's actually real data you can use and build reports from. And so that's a continuous piece of work that we'll work on going into 24. Next slide. So we're seeing a lot of positivity and an interest in adoption of the Focus spec from the cloud providers themselves. You can see that basically we have representation from all of them here. We're starting to see actual Focus implementations turning up. With the Kudos dashboards have introduced terminology from Focus into the actual dashboard templates themselves. Code 2.0 is we believe positioned very well to help generate Focus format schemas, and Microsoft will has already got a program out where they're looking for signups for their interested in Focus data, and we'll have links to that later. And so the big thing that we're trying to push for with Focus right now is everybody, to add Focus to your 24 roadmaps, that getting your data in Focus format, getting your reports, utilizing the Focus terminology, moves us towards a world where this schema is more than just a schema, but it's actually the way we do cloud billing, and it's actually enabling businesses all over the world to be more efficient in the way they operate FinOps within their organization. So go check it out if you haven't. Please read the spec and get signed up to programs at work that are going to enable you to be doing Focus in your organizations.
And to clarify on the Focus spec a bit, it's an open source specification that in a lot of ways helps you normalize across cloud providers, right? Like figure out how to report from your AWS to your Google to your Microsoft. But it also really helps clarify things like the metrics and reporting measures, even within a single cloud provider. If you look at like AWS, you've got blended rate and unblended rate and amortized and unamortized and discounted and not discounted and savings plans, reservances, and all of those things. So it's really getting a common lexicon together for you to work in your organization to help make the data easier to understand, to drive more trust, and to get everybody aligned around how to talk about cloud spend and how to report on cloud spend. As you've all seen in your own organizations, I've worked with a few over the years in different capacities. Often you give a report to somebody in a different department, engineering team, and they disagree with the data, or the dollar that's being reported is being measured differently. And this really helps to align that and make it easier to get action taken on FinOps capabilities and features in all those areas. We're about 4 years into the foundation. When we started this, it was just practitioners only. In 2021, Google joined us. In 22, Microsoft joined us. Maybe it was 23. Later in 23, AWS joined us. And now, as part of the foundation, that we've got this complete collection of cloud providers. involved, it's letting us do some really interesting things. So the focus specification we mentioned, all the cloud providers are starting to align behind, which means it's going to make it easier for you to get the data in, but also potentially to look at adding other clouds in or moving between clouds. And for us within the foundation and for you as practitioners, what we're able to do now is start to bring in a lot of the product experts and the engineering experts from the cloud providers that are offering the billing data, offering the features, the optimizations, the things that you're using in your practice to actually provide better insights into how to do your jobs better. So, in 2024, you're going to see the FinOps Foundation start to do deeper content with each of the cloud providers. Now, we're staying cloud neutral in terms of we don't have a horse in the race. We don't care which cloud you use. We're not going to recommend a cloud. We're here to help you do your job better. But there's two constituents really in the FinOps practice. There's the practitioners doing the practice and then the cloud providers providing the data. We're really looking to figure out how we can get deeper into, for each cloud, how to do FinOps on that specific cloud. A lot of the specifications, the framework on FinOps.org, the trainings, they're sort of focused on how do you build your business around doing the FinOps practice and how do you get engineering teams to understand cost and finance teams to understand cloud. But we want to go further to actually do deep dives with the clouds around specific events, specific best practices, and those types of things. So again, there's a little QR code there on the bottom that's asking you to take the State of FinOps survey. We want to hear from you in that survey what you want to see us doing more of, generally for the framework with the clouds, et cetera, in 2024 as part of all this. Another big initiative that we're rolling out, we've been working on for the last few months and is rolling out at the beginning of the year, is we're updating the core definition of FinOps. This is going to be the third rev on it, and there's not massive structural changes here, but there's a few key things that you'll notice in this definition that have changed. One of those is that we're talking a lot more about value of cloud. And you'll note we've removed the word public cloud from this as well, because we're seeing the FinOps practice move much more now into cloud-like things, private cloud, SaaS, licensing, all the things attached to the cloud practice. We're also focusing the definition increasingly on that accountability between the different parts of the organization, getting engineering, finance, leadership, these groups to work together. And critically, one of the key parts of FinOps in general is that we're focusing this on actionable, timely, data-driven spending decisions. So one of the big differences in FinOps versus traditional ways of managing infrastructure is it, and with cloud in general, is this huge granularity of spend data you get, right? If you're a $100 million a year spender on a cloud, you may have billions of individual charges per month that you're getting hit with, and the data is being constantly updated. So the practice and the definition are really focused on bringing those things together. Mike, can you talk a little about how this kind of starts to pull into the FinOps framework changes as well?
Yeah, so I think just making sure that we had a very strong and universally utilized definition. Something that we can do now that we have all of the major cloud providers as part of the conversation. But then looking holistically at the framework about how we can simplify and make the whole framework easier to adopt for organizations out there and clearer exactly how each of the pieces plug together. And so the things have remained fairly consistent about our framework over the time is like the fact we have a definition, the principles that we have defined since 2019. Personas, we've seen them grow over time, but generally they're the same personas. Our maturity model, our phases, and then the domains and capabilities. And so we're looking at the whole framework of where we can optimize it, I guess, for your implementation of FinOps. But generally, we're not changing the practice of FinOps itself. So we're really just talking about how can the framework better support what is FinOps within your organizations. And so we've been working with our Technical Advisory Council to review and refresh that. And so we're going to cover some of the things that have been already passed through with our Technical Advisory Council, including the definition and some of the things that we're looking at, refreshing into 2024. And so one of the things that we have done already is we've defined two groupings of personas, the core personas and the allied personas. This just makes it easier for us to add personas to the framework without it becoming a very long laundry list of everybody in your business. It means that we can sort of highlight those that are core to the FinOps practice itself, and those who are really allies you build as you sort of develop integration points with other practices like your TBMs, your ITFMs, your ITAMs, etc. across the business. And so we're still working with the TAC on exactly placement of the personas into these two groupings, but the groupings are there ready for us in 2024. Next slide. And then looking at the domains and capabilities themselves, there was, over the time with our working groups, there's always this case of like, does this, piece of work belong more to this capability here, or does it belong to that capability there? Because sometimes capabilities are overlapping, like you can't really do one capability without the other, or some capabilities have sort of two nested sets of activities that are happening within inside them, and it's hard for us to sort of describe them better. And so what we're doing is trying to unify the capability list to be a little bit clearer, a little bit less duplication across the framework, and that's starts at the actual domains themselves. And actually, this little list is a little tiny bit out of date. We've just in the last few days actually collaborated with our TAC to lock in the final naming on these domains that we have. But we have gone down to the 4 major domains. 3 that sit inside of the domains of things you're doing in order for FinOps success, and then 1 domain which is really about how you're running FinOps within your organization. And so expect to see more of this coming out in 2024, a lot more content, a lot more clarification of what the changes mean. But ultimately, the big thing is that FinOps hasn't changed itself. We know it's still the same FinOps that you do and love today in your businesses. We're just trying to make our framework better describe and better educate those who are trying to implement FinOps within their practices. And then we'll pass over to the CSP, unless you got something, JR, you wanted to.
Sorry, it was muted there. No, that's great. Let me move forward there. So one of the things we wanted to cover, because when we run our FinOps summits here in North America, it's often very, 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 very late for many of you, or very, very early. Mike, bless his soul, has joined a few of these at 2 a.m. his time to listen in. We don't expect all of you to do that. But part of this alignment now we have with all the cloud providers being a part of the conversation is that we can now start to do better recaps and deep dives of the things coming out that affect your practice from these. So what we did this last quarter was we, at our monthly FinOps summits, we did a focus each month in September and then November and then December on each of the recent cloud provider conferences. So the first one in September was Google Next, which happened in San Francisco. In November, we did one on Microsoft Ignite, which happened in Seattle, Washington. And then the third one, which we just wrapped, was the AWS reInvent conference in Vegas. So because this happened over the last few months, we wanted to come back to you with a recap of those 3 together. So you can see sort of the whole spectrum of cloud provider features that have come out in this area to start to touch on some of the pain points. The first one of those I'll kick off because I was at, Mike was not, was the Google Next conference in San Francisco. This is the last year they were doing it in San Francisco. By the way, it's getting moved to Vegas now. We had a great community event at this, it was at this San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, along with a lot of the great practitioners on the screen here. We've got Kim Weir and Bindu, who are part of our Technical Advisory Council, as well as Courtney Borman. And the community came together to talk about how to do FinOps on Google. At their conference, they did a good job, I think, of having a lot of FinOps breakout sessions. They had customer panels, et cetera. For us, it was really about getting the community together to have conversations as part of that. And in this summit, we had Rupa Patel and Sarah McMullen, who are the product owners, or respectively for different parts of the Google products. They're covering a lot of the feature sets that came out at that conference. So we want to cover some of those, and the big bucket areas, not surprisingly, with all the cloud providers. And Michael, I'll pass to you here in just a minute, and you'll see the theme sort of start to develop as we go through all 3 of these. First and foremost was everybody was trying to get AI right into their FinOps offerings. Big buzzword for everyone right now. Another big theme we saw come out here and in the others as well is better data exports, getting the right data out to the right people in the right ways. And better APIs to start to pull that data out into other parts of the practice. And Mike, why don't you take us away with the Google update so we can see that trend play out?
Yeah, so we hear from practitioners about there's a lot of interest in AI within FinOps, and so it's interesting to see how the cloud providers are thinking about this space themselves or how they can enrich their own tools. So Google at Next announced that they integrated Do It AI into their cloud billing console, enabling you to ask questions about your billing straight in the billing console straight there and then. So it basically provides assistance to answer questions that you might have about your billing. And then the GCP team actually trained this LLM on the FinOps Foundation certified practitioner sample questions. And so it was interesting to see, how powerful the LLM was able to sort of answer those questions pretty well.
Yeah,
So
this was a little creepy, actually. We did not give them the actual exam questions for FinOps certified practitioner. They wanted them, and we don't share them. So we came up with an equivalent set of, I think, 30 or 50 questions that could have been on the exam. And their LLM got 100% on the exam, basically passed with flying colors the FinOps certified practitioner sample set. So that was pretty cool to see. They were pretty excited about it. We were a little frightened, to be honest.
And then I think the other thing that you'll sort of see across the providers is this like more granular, more detailed data sets and presenting it better to their customers. And so new export metadata was added for the BigQuery exports. And so really, this was enabling the GCP customers to better join price and their billing data together. So you really can compare costs and detailed information from your pricing exports against your billing exports. And so we saw that, cross-referencing pricing units to see across different SKUs. It also added seller-related fields like legal name of the seller, whether it was a Google-provided resource that you paid for or third-party partners. And then lastly, the actual pricing themselves, they enhanced their catalog pricing with a billing pricing API, which would further improves the existing catalog pricing to give you access to list price, plus also account-specific contractual pricing discounts, and SKUs according to your contracts. And the pricing API really does allow you to compare SKU prices, discounts across resources, regions, SKU groups, and just really how savings compare across the lot of them. And they've previewed some where they think this is going to go. They're going to do things like visibility on pricing for things like support SKUs and provide price revisions and historicals. So some interesting enhancements in the Inform, I guess, tools available from the GCP platform there.
This was another big theme, and Google was the first one to kick it off this year. Was we saw a lot of hub type of features, which is features that were pulling together within the cloud providers, all the different optimization recommendations, all the different bits of data there. Mike, what do you see in the Google feature?
Yeah, so I guess it's interesting, as I said, Google kicked this off. They were, talking about this fragmentation of the optimization journey, that there was sort of a variation of different tools and dashboards and data sets and APIs that you could go to in order to get the data you need for FinOps. And so having these hubs, starting to form within the cloud providers, the idea being that you go to one place with a single pane of glass to really give that sort of centralized and unified way of approaching FinOps with your cloud provider. And so basically, their story for the FinOps, FinOps Hub was that you land on this single page, you understand very quickly where your top cost saving opportunities are. Whether where it is in the specific service, a specific optimization suggestion, etc. In addition to the optimization suggestions, there's items that you should be taking care of right away, or that you might not be aware of, and so it really does bring them to forefront. Things like your expired committed use discounts or unattended projects and stuff like that. And then in addition to this, they've added scoring within the hub to give you a real reflection of sort of how you're doing at your FinOps practice within the FinOps hub. And so things like looking at how your utilization of those the actual tool itself, and then the recommendations themselves, how they score against, how optimized you are at FinOps and how more efficient you are using your cloud resources. And this connects through to doing peer benchmarks, where their score itself really does allow you to sort of reflect upon your FinOps practice against the peers in the industry, in your segment, in your region, at the same size scale of usage within GCP, etc. And so that FinOps score is really an advanced ML-based score based on their review of all of different customers' utilizations. And so, you really are looking at, logging in and seeing your billing tools, your optimization resources, all those practices, and then that score really does sort of sets you up for success, I guess, and a good way for you to figure out where you can improve, your FinOps practice within your organization by looking at some of the suggestions for improvement. And then next slide. And so Google also talked about how empowering engineers to take action is obviously one of the challenges that we all know. It's always the top in our state of FinOps. It'll be interesting to see what happens next year, whether it stays there. Probably can take bets in chat on that one. But effectively, we're looking at one set of features they announced is around having budgets, and so allowing engineers to set granular budgets at project level or otherwise. So that they can sort of set their own expectations or have expectations set down on what expected spend will be, and then get those alerts so that they're sort of more proactive in being, I guess, cost conscious in the way they run their cloud resources. And so, yeah, it was good to see this feature set. It's a really critical feature for engineers to be connected to, the expectations or the constraints that are set, with that partnership with finance, and sort of having automated tools to sort of get in ahead of it and put the right alerts in the right place at the right time.
So in the actual summit that we did, this is again the September North America Summit, the Google product managers gave much deeper dives of all these things, and it was considerably longer. So we'll post that link in the chat. Please go watch the actual recording. We're kind of summarizing, but if you're a Google user, definitely recommend you check that one out. The next conference that hit here in North America was the Microsoft Ignite conference. This happened, I guess it was about a month ago now. In Seattle. This was also, I hear, a conference is going to be moving locations next year, although we don't know where it's going yet. Microsoft conference was pretty interesting in the sense that they cover obviously a huge swath of different types of industries, services, offerings. Cloud was a big part of it, but they're also covering around, office and workspace, related areas. AI was obviously a huge theme with Microsoft and OpenAI. We did see not quite as much forward-facing FinOps content at this conference, but they did actually invite a number of people from the FinOps Foundation into things like customer advisory boards, where they were talking about upcoming feature sets, getting customers doing FinOps together. We also did run an event alongside this conference in Seattle. Smaller group, probably about 75 or 80 FinOps practitioners at the Seattle Museum of Pop Culture. Really good evening of conversations there. But on this summit, the virtual summit in November, we had Michael Flanagan and Sri Kedambi, talking about some of their upcoming features that they had launched. Themes here, some similar areas, AI playing in heavily with Copilot, deeper visibility, into reports and dashboards, abilities to export, which again, we heard on the last one, we're going to hear shortly, and a lot of different things. Mike, what's your rundown on this one?
Yeah, so I guess one of the big themes, I guess, around the whole of Ignite was Copilot, and so it was good to see the FinOps teams at Microsoft introducing Copilot to their mix as well, and wasn't just those sort of tools available for the engineers, but the FinOps team gets to benefit from that as well. So within the cost management portal, you're able to actually ask Copilot questions about your bill and your FinOps activities. Getting more granularity into shared costs on Azure Kubernetes service, and so being able to get the costs down in clusters, namespaces, etc. So more drill downs into the smart views. So you can see this theme of really sort of getting more granular, getting more detail, and so that you can get the answers to your FinOps questions. And then new data exports, so more data sets, which really does cover more of the FinOps use cases. So, I guess at some point we're going to argue that we get spoilt for choice on all of this, but I think that we'll start to see focus start to unify all of this. So there is a standard sort of way of looking at things, or a unified way of looking at things. And so actually this was one of the first announcements by a cloud provider that they are setting up to align their data to focus. And so we'll have a slide on that in a minute. I'll keep promising it, but we'll get there. Then we, from those cost management exports, you're able to actually, export your data not just to within the cloud itself, but even straight through to behind the firewall, setting up multiple data exports all at one time, being able to actually backfill or rerun exports for historical data. That's an interesting one for FinOps practices that are, slowly maturing, and then they realize that they haven't set up certain data exports, so you're able to sort of backfill there. And then more capabilities around the utilization and use of reservations. And coming soon, they announced that they will be looking at compression and parquet support for exports, which is obviously going to make it more efficient types of data outputs that you can use. And then things around tag management for inheritance of MCA billing, which is, tags is a challenge for FinOps practitioners. So to see some more support and feature sets in the tag areas is really, really encouraging.
Yeah, and I want to double click at the risk of being pedantic a little bit around this theme of data exports, because as great as all the features that all the clouds build and the platforms build and people build in-house, underlying the entire practice is consistent, reliable, understandable data. And a lot of the theme we've seen in this last year, particularly as you get the shift left of getting FinOps earlier in engineering processes, is that companies and organizations are taking the data out of their cloud provider, out of their platform, and getting it into other systems, getting it into, build systems, getting into architectural reviews, getting it earlier on in the development process, looking at cost at the beginning. So you're going to keep seeing, I think, this consistent theme of, yes, the cloud provider is shipping a lot of features around this, but also the demand from the community to get more granular and more flexible billing export data, which Microsoft definitely was coming out here with. And yeah, as Mike said, great to see one of the first ones having actual focus export as well. And then they out with the hub as well. We heard about hubs at the Google event, and they have their own hub as well.
Yeah, exactly. Centralizing the FinOps activity, I guess. They also added enhancements to their FinOps toolkit. So further new and updated Power BI reports for the EA and MCA customers. They added PowerShell modules. I guess, being Windows heavy, you're able to then use the PowerShell to do things like deploy and manage FinOps hubs, which, really great way of deploying those around the organization, convert cost and usage data into focus using PowerShell modules, and then more of those exports. So the FinOps hubs have added support for MCA, which is good for those customers. The cost optimization workbook, so covering more scenarios, and then also put it directly available inside of Azure Advisor. So you can see enhancing the optimization tools within that space. Governance workbooks, and then open data file support for cleansing of the focus support. So this is, effectively getting to a point where they can support focus data for their customer base. They added a FinOps review and assessment, and this is actually something that I really liked, because at FinOps X this year, I talked a lot about using, FinOps assessments to assess yourself and get good feedback from your own engineers about where they see FinOps within the organization. So having more of these assessment type tools available to run assessments on your own FinOps practice is really good, and having those tied with actual recommendations and actual scores back to your organization really does give you a sort of clear pathway of the next steps for your development of FinOps. And then Microsoft also announced that they became a certified service provider from the FinOps Foundation as well. So that was great to see in this area. And the next slide, I guess one thing that was probably not covered as good a detail as it could be, and we're actually going to talk to Microsoft on how we could get a bit more detail of this in front of you, the practitioner, because I think a better demonstration will be useful for you to understand this feature that they had, where we're getting actual data, the cost data, like the focus data, into Microsoft Fabric, and then utilizing that alongside Copilot. So asking questions of your data, but having that help you build out the right dashboards to answer the questions. And so, it was a really good demonstration of sort of how these things can merge together and be utilized as a solution to FinOps challenges. And so we'll continue to look at getting more demonstration of this from Microsoft in front of you, the practitioner.
And we are working on a deep dive right now with them to look more at this feature, because it wasn't, we didn't get a chance to cover it on the summit. It's some pretty cool stuff in terms of being able to interrogate the data with Copilot conversationally, but then really to work with the data. And consistently, you'll see, again, from the Google to Microsoft here to AWS in a minute, on top of those data exports, on top of AI, really common theme, all three of them have their own data visualization layers they're trying to put in, Power BI in this case, Looker for Google, QuickSight for AWS. So starting to see a really interesting intersection of the data with the visualization, and then with the AI coming in as well across all of those. Microsoft, as part of that early preview, and Rodney, thanks for the shout out there earlier in the chat, mentioning that you're using it, looking at it. They do have a preview for exports and focus that are looking for feedback on. So if you're a Microsoft user, please do take a screenshot of this QR code or the link that we'll drop in the chat and try out that early preview. The more support we can get people looking at it, giving them feedback, the faster it'll get into native data sets, which is what we want. So it actually helps out the community if we can get you using some of these things in there sooner. So, and then there was reInvent. This was, for me personally, my 10th AWS reInvent in Vegas. The conference has just gone insane. The first one I went to 10 years ago or 11 years ago with COVID, I guess, was 3,500 people. This one was 65,000 people in Vegas. Mike, you've been to a few of these. How was this conference for you?
Definitely not as many as you. I think this was my 5th. But I guess what really stood out to me has been a couple of years off because of COVID, but it just felt like everywhere I went, reInvent was happening in Vegas. Every hotel, every lobby, there was a lot of people. But we had we had 2 major events, I guess, that we ran with the AWS cost team in one of the restaurants there, and we had a connection with the product team of AWS with our practitioner members. And so we had Q&A event where they spent an hour and a half really just peppering them with questions and getting information and really helping them understand the latest announcements, and some of those we'll talk about in a moment. And then after that, the networking event, the roadshow event, where we got practitioners and alike get together and actually have really strong FinOps conversations for a few hours, which was really, really awesome. There's always great to just see how much energy is in a group of FinOps people really passionate about this space and wanting to talk to each other about it. So,
if you've seen the FinOps book that we worked on, and a lot of you contributed to, we have a history of the AWS billing data in there because it goes way back to like 2012, and there have been so many iterations and versions. And it was really interesting this year to see, with some of the announcements we're going to cover in a minute, how billing data and cost really hit the forefront of the conference. FinOps was everywhere at this event. I mean, there were 15 or 20 different sessions. There were hundreds of our community members there. Cost, FinOps, cloud financial management hit so many sessions. Werner Vogels, the CTO of AWS, did an entire 2-hour keynote, and I highly recommend you go watch this if you've been in this community, on what he calls the frugal architect. And this was the first time really since 2012, the first reInvent, that he spent time talking about cost heavily, which is really interesting given where economy is and the focus around value and all these areas. But he brought in this concept that cost and sustainability data need to be equally measured alongside security, compliance, accessibility, performance, all the other parts of cloud, and that cost is a critical constraint that you need to introduce into your engineering cycles. For us at the foundation, it was so validating to see his talk, because, and he went through, we'll post a link here later, he went through all what he considers the core laws of being a frugal architect, and they aligned completely with all the FinOps principles. And also great to see him bringing sustainability as a core concept in there. They're still rolling out, obviously, more sustainability data and outputs around that area, but starting to say, like, we need to look at carbon alongside cost, alongside security, performance, availability as measures of that. It was great to see as well, Tracy Wu from Forrester, who's the analyst who covers a lot of the platforms in the space, has written extensively here, call this a silent nod to FinOps. Basically, as I mentioned, Werner broke down all these principles that aligned pretty much lockstep with the FinOps concepts that we've all been hashing out these last 4 years. Very well timed with AWS joining the FinOps Foundation and their focus there. Definitely recommend you go check out this article as well and watch that keynote. And they made a bunch of product announcements that were relevant to the space and started to pull together these themes of less AI here, but more data exports, visualization, et cetera. Mike, take us away here.
Yeah, so I guess first and foremost, you see the new billing and cost management console, which is effectively their unified view again, bringing all of the data together, paired with cost optimization hub, which we'll cover in a moment. But one of the big things I think for a lot of AWS practitioners was the fact that they added extended look back, so that you're now getting a longer history within Cost Explorer, and the granular resource data within Cost Explorer. So you're now not sort of having to get out of the Cost Explorer tool in order to see the history. It's there now available to you. They added a Code 2.0 support, which is customizable exports. So both within console, but also within a SQL language, able to sort of customize exactly the columns and then the data set that actually gets exported. So sort of allowing you to curate the data that you get, or the shape of the data that you get. And so this is definitely an area where we think that focus can be plugged into. Cost and usage dashboards powered by QuickSight. So for anyone who's seen the Kudos dashboards and haven't had the the ability or the time to set up Kudos, this really is a Kudos Lite available to you as an Amazon customer directly in the console. So low effort adoption of a Kudos-like dashboard, and they definitely seem to be very positive about the future development of that dashboard set. For smaller FinOps practitioner outfits where free tier might be really impactful and material, or maybe some practices where you're using trying to stay under the free tier, having an API there for you to be able to make sure that you are operating within the free tier and maybe automatically shutting things down when you're starting to get close to or have just breached the free tier. So that API is an interesting development there. The application cost management was a good way of sort of, quick steps towards giving you unit economics. And so based on sort of a set of tag sets, being able to actually, identify sets of costs based on different application tags. And so I think that's an interesting one to dig deeper into for FinOps practitioners looking towards getting into granular unit economics. Next slide. So looking a bit deeper at that QuickSight integration, it was basically a way of deploying the Kudos dashboards in a way that didn't require any effort. It's directly from the AWS billing cost management console, and it's specifically on the data exports page. And so now you have created cloud intelligent dashboards. Effectively, we definitely should be checking this out if you haven't looked at the Kudos dashboards. The Kudos teams you've done a lot of good work there, and they've borrowed a lot of that technology into this console for the QuickSight. The Kudos itself, they've also brought in a lot of the focus categories, which I mentioned earlier as well. So there's a lot of development both with Kudos and this new cost intelligent dashboards. And then I mentioned the cost optimization hub. So the point here was that there was once again fragmentation in the journey for FinOps. There was a lot of different tools within the AWS landscape that were giving you different recommendations, and it was actually hard for a practitioner to figure out which have they looked at all of the recommendations and which of the recommendations overlap other ones, and then by double counting on opportunities here. And so the cost optimization hub really does pull all that together into the one space under the one API, and then actually means that you're not double counting, you're not getting confused about which recommendations are the ones that you're looking for. really adding a lot of power to filter on what optimizations you're looking for. Maybe you're not, taking on right sizing right this second. You're trying to look for other opportunities or vice versa. And so you can filter in or filter out different recommendations so that you can sort of see where you're looking for. So the other thing that I guess Compute Optimizer, which is connected to this, they've done a lot of work on Compute Optimizer over the last 12 months. There's a lot of increased support for new instance types and regions, but they're doing added extra features there for tuning the actual recommendations itself. So adding a 32-day look back for the optimizations was a big one for them. The default's 14, but you can now select longer look backs, which really does allow you to cover workloads that might have very busy start of month and then more quieter rest of the month or whatever. And so being able to actually look at what the workload looks like across a whole month period and making sure that you are making recommendations that aren't going to cause risks or issues for your engineers over time. So lots of features in that, and then it's good to see it sort of unifying it so that you're not having to glue all of these things together yourselves. So as JR said, that we've sort of lightly crossed through what the actual real product people talked about on our previous summit sessions. They are recorded, so while we don't recommend getting up at 2 a.m. in the morning to go watch them, we definitely have them available to you, and so we will make sure that we get some links into the chat for you to where these different recaps have been in previous summits, so you can watch them. The one that's more important to you, or all three of them. I think they're all very good presentations.
Awesome. Well, that's all three in a nutshell. And, definitely let us know if you want to see more of those types of recaps. Now that we've got all the clouds involved, we're looking at how to get those out. But we're going to shift gears a little bit here to talk about the Asia Pacific and Japan region and the upcoming events that we have there, and hopefully get a lot of you participating directly in those. So wanted to introduce you to Regina from the FinOps Foundation, who is running our Meetup program.
Thanks, JR. Hello, everyone. My name is Regina Schulte. I am a community advisor lead with the FinOps Foundation. I'm also the program manager for the Meetup program. I'm going to talk to you for just a few minutes about our Meetup program. And for those of you who may not know what a Meetup is, it's an informal, in-person community event hosted and organized by one of our FinOps certified Meetup organizers, along with the support of the FinOps Foundation staff. And the purpose of a meetup is to bring together not only FinOps peers, but those experienced FinOps peers, but those new to FinOps or those wanting to enter the FinOps domain. Why meetups? What's the value of a meetup? With meetups, you have the opportunity to connect and to collaborate with FinOps peers in your local area. We bring you together to share your expertise, what you've learned, your successes, as well as share your failures. We want you to learn from and connect with your peers. It's an opportunity to explore common challenges, as well as solutions to those challenges. We want you to build a knowledgeable FinOps network right in your local area. And our goal with meetups really is pretty simple. It's to build and educate our FinOps community. On the slide, you can see just a few of the various topics, and there have been many that have been covered at meetups in 2023, from API caching to leading a FinOps team to automated efficiency through AI. Meetups are an opportunity to really learn about valuable FinOps topics from people actually doing FinOps. I just started with the FinOps Foundation in early June of this year, and I attended my first meetup in Chicago in November. We had a panel of leaders share their knowledge on how to launch a FinOps organization, as well as how to lead a FinOps team. After the panel discussion, in speaking with practitioners who were at the meetup, they said the knowledge and experiences shared were invaluable to them, especially since it came from those who actually lived it. And because the panelists sharing the knowledge were from their area, they felt more comfortable approaching them down the road for more insight. They felt a connection. One practitioner shared with me after attending a meetup that it was wonderful to see all the FinOps people at one place and hear about how they are progressing in their individual careers. They said it really helped them to understand where they stood in terms of their FinOps knowledge, as well as help them identify what areas of FinOps they needed to focus on. Another practitioner shared that they felt the meetup provided them with just practical advice on FinOps management. So the value of a meetup is really hard to measure, but we do know there is great value in our meetups, and it's far reaching, and it's helping us to build a much more knowledgeable FinOps community. Next slide, please. So I mentioned earlier that meetups are organized by certified meetup organizers, or CMOs. Here is a snapshot of ambassadors and CMOs in the Asia Pacific and Japan region. If I showed you this map at the beginning of 2023, I would have shown you a blank map. The Asia Pacific and Japan region started with no CMOs and no formal meetup program. So I'm very excited to share this map. And at the close of 2023, we now have 10 certified meetup organizers who have hosted 10 meetups in 5 different cities. So job well done by the people shown here. If you do not see, I'm going to go ahead. I want to name them. We have Joshua, Zoa in Shanghai, Rakesh, Pathy in Hyderabad, who just hosted a week ago the very first meetup in India, which was a huge success. Pratik Saraf in Bangalore, Catherine Zhang and Leon Jiang in Melbourne. Leon has successfully hosted a meetup in 2023, and we'll be hearing from him shortly as he's presenting in this summit. Yuji Kazama in Tokyo, who also just last week hosted our first ever meetup in Japan, another huge success. Jung-hee Kang from Maepugoo will be hosting our first ever meetup in Korea next month. Sara Gadallah from Sydney hosted 3 meetups in 2023. Sara is also one of our FinOps Foundation ambassadors, and I'm excited we're going to be hearing from her shortly as well. Andy Cronin, who is also a FinOps Foundation ambassador, is from Auckland. He's an experienced CMO as he hosted 3 meetups in 2023. And then lastly, Kieran Cornelius in Wellington also hosted a 2023 meetup. So a huge thank you to all of you for your very hard work this past year. If you do not see a meetup organizer in your area, if you are a FinOps practitioner, you can apply to become a CMO and start planning events in your area. If you're a practitioner and would like to host a meetup in your office, we're always looking for practitioner venues. If you'd like to share your FinOps knowledge and area of expertise with others, we're always looking for speakers at FinOps meetup events. If you're interested in getting involved in any of these ways, please email us at meetups@finops.org. We'd love to have you involved in helping us build our meetup program. Next slide, please. So speaking of 2024, these are the areas where we know we will be hosting meetups in the first quarter. Seoul, Korea on January 12th, Melbourne, Australia, and a location in India yet to be determined. We also know that in the second quarter of 2024, we'll be hosting a meetup in Sydney, another in India, and again in Japan. Dates and locations still yet to be determined, but you can watch our FinOps community events page for those dates and open registration. Please join us at your local meetup. We look forward to seeing you there. Again, just watch FinOps, our FinOps community events page for those dates and when you can register. Next slide, please. Lastly, I just want to touch on the importance of connecting. Yes, we want you to attend and connect in person at our meetup events, but just as important to us is that we want you to stay connected. One way to stay connected is to make sure you're a member of your area's Slack channel. This will keep you connected not only with your certified meetup organizer, but also with peers in your area, as well as FinOps Foundation staff. This is a platform for you to share ideas, to ask questions, promote and plan events. If you're not aware of your local area's Slack channel, this slide shows a list of the channels available for the Asia Pacific and Japan region. If you're experiencing issues with joining these Slack channels, please reach out to me or email meetups@finops.org. We will be happy to make sure that you get into these Slack channels. I just want to close by sharing a couple of the testimonials shown here that I think really speak to the value of meetups. The first one is, the event brought together FinOps professionals from diverse industries, fostering insightful discussions on optimizing cloud costs, FinOps maturity, and more. And then I love Sara's comment here. It's the power of the community that gives value to everything we do with the FinOps Foundation. Speaking of Sara, it's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Sara Gadallah. Sara is located in Sydney, Australia. She's the technical lead of the Cloud FinOps team at Atlassian. Sara actually took over the role from our own Mike Fuller before he joined us at the FinOps Foundation. And Sara is the longest running certified Meetup organizer in the Asia Pacific and Japan region. She is also a FinOps Foundation ambassador and has been a presenter at FinOps X. Welcome, Sara.
Thank you, Regina, and welcome everyone. Very happy that the community is growing and we have almost 170 people in the summit. That's great news. Next slide, please. So I'm Sara, Principal FinOps Analyst in Atlassian, and I also host the Sydney FinOps Meetup. We're going to talk a little bit about the meetups and how it started and how we're kind of evolving. Next slide, please. So just a bit of an idea of how we started. So it was almost 18 months ago that we had our first Sydney FinOps Meetup. And this is when I approached Joe Daly, which was the only community director back then. And I kind of expressed interest in starting a FinOps in Australia. And it was actually the first meetup in the whole region. It's crazy that 18 months forward, we have 10 meetups in 10 different cities in the region. So massive, both exciting and crazy. So our first meetup actually happened on Zoom because back then not everyone had actually went back to the office and COVID was still lingering around. So we had our first meetup in June and July 2022. We had almost 20 attendees in our first meetup on Zoom, and our community kind of grew ever since then. Crazy times. The last meetup we had over 40 people. So our community is growing. But yeah, this is how we started. Next slide, please. So in 2022, we actually had 2 meetups on Zoom. In 2023, we started by doing in-person meetups. So we started the first one in February 2023, and it was really good. We're very excited to have everyone in person. So we decided to make it kind of a social setup, like more of meeting in a pub, meeting everyone in person, get everyone to network without presentations, without topics. It was really good to finally meet some familiar faces in person. And then in April 2023, we had our biggest event for the year. This is when we had JR coming to the land down under and actually participate in our meetup along with Mike Fuller in the fireside chat. So this is when we listen to our community because we always get feedbacks of, okay, we want some international speakers from the FinOps Foundation. We want some international speakers from North America. And there was nothing better than having the 2 men who actually wrote the FinOps book together in one room, participating, answering questions from the community. We had a slide link for questions. Everyone was super excited. And of course, some attendees got a signed copy of the book from Mike and JR. So that was huge. We had, I think, over 100 attendees in that meetup, which was great. It was our biggest event for the year. And then our last meetup actually happened last month in Atlassian office. So this is when we had Prabha talking about optimizing Azure Log Analytics. And we also had Mike sharing some foundation updates, like he gave the focus update, the updates to the framework, talking about the state of FinOps survey, covering topics like what's to expect in the FinOps X in San Diego or even the next one in Barcelona. So it was great to have Prabha and also have Mike participating, giving updates from the foundation. And we had very good turnout from the attendees as well, very good feedback. Next slide, please. So this is just to give everyone an idea of what a good talk looks like, just to give it a kind of an example with what Prabha presented as optimizing Azure Log Analytics. So he basically kind of gave an overview of what's the Azure Monitor and what's the Log Analytics workspace, what would be the cost drivers. So it's like how much data you ingested, how long you retain your data are the 2 main cost drivers, and also presented strategies on how to drive the cost optimization. He talked about daily capping, reducing the retention period, for example, and commitment tiers, etc. And also spoke about like some tips and tricks for this. So how to keep the balance between the data and being compliant, or how to start with your development and staging environments. This is definitely very useful because it answers a lot of questions and it solves real world problems. And it's coming, like Regina said, from the people doing the work, from the practitioners. So I encourage everyone to participate in the meetups, start to share your knowledge, your ideas, either it's like cloud agnostic or it's specific cloud provider. it's definitely very useful for the community to hear stories from the practitioners. Next slide, please. So we talk about how we started and what happened in 2023, and now what's next for us in our 2024 plan. So we are planning actually more meetups in person. The next one, even though we have one happening in Q2, like Regina mentioned, we actually have one happening in Q1 as well. Stay tuned. We are targeting February as like a tentative date for this one, but we'll be sharing more details about this in the next year. And the exciting part is we're planning more open discussion forums. We want to hear the current pain points and questions from the community. And we want to solve real life problems, all levels. So whether you are about to start your FinOps journey, you don't know where to start or how to start, whether you are already starting your FinOps journey or in the middle of FinOps journey or in the run phase of your FinOps journey, we want to help solve problems with you along with the community. So we want people to participate in discussions, share their knowledge. And we also heard the feedback from the community members that are consultants or vendors that they want to contribute positively within the code of conduct in the community. So this is your chance to contribute. Next year, it's going to be more about either shock talks or open discussion forums where people share their problems. And we have brainstorming sessions, we have open discussion, people sharing their knowledge and ideas and hearing from other members. So really looking forward to all the members contributing. That will be very exciting. Also, we are looking forward to connect with the global FinOps community. I cannot see everyone on the screen, but I'm personally attending the FinOps X in San Diego next year, and I'm looking forward to connect to the global FinOps community. This is why we're targeting Q1 and Q2 for our meetup, because we leave usually Q3 for the FinOps X. So yeah, pretty exciting times ahead of us in 2024 and looking forward to connect with everyone. Next slide, please. So like Regina mentioned, we want everyone to contribute and we want to hear from you. So please be curious and start discussions either on our Slack channel for Australia and New Zealand or any other Slack channels in the FinOps Slack community. Just ask questions, start discussions, get involved. Also, we always need local speakers and practitioners. So I remember the first time I had the meetup, Prabha was kind of shy and he approached me, he was like, oh, can I be one of the speakers? And I was very happy. It's always good. We always need speakers and practitioners. So get in touch with myself or Regina if you want to participate and present in our Sydney FinOps meetup. Also, while Atlassian thankfully hosts most of our in-person meetup, we can host meetups events in your practitioner office. So yeah, let us know if you have a space, let Regina or myself know, and please contribute more. We really look forward to the value this community brings and the participation from everyone. Thank you, Regina. I'll hand over back to you.
Thank you, Sara. Thanks for sharing. I look forward to organizing a few more meetups with you in 2024. Thanks for all you do for us. Now I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Leon Jiang. Leon is located in Melbourne, Australia. He is an experienced and successful with building FinOps teams at multiple large banking organizations and is currently leading the FinOps team at ANZ, the Australian and New Zealand banking group. As you know, Leon is a certified Meetup organizer and hosted a Melbourne Meetup in 2023. Welcome, Leon.
Thank you, Regina. And hi, everyone. Really good to be here and having so many of you on the call as well. So thanks for the introduction. My name is Leon, and I have been an active member of the foundation, if I recall right, since 2019.
So you were one of the first. I got to give you a shout out. You were so early. Yeah, you've been around it from the beginning. So great to see you.
Thanks,
Sorry,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Really good to see this community have grown so quickly and so fast and so large as well. So I'm also a certified FinOps practitioner, as well as I just heard the new term, the CMO as well. So currently leading the FinOps team at ANZ Bank. I just want to shout out to Mike as well for reaching out to me and asked me if I would be interested in hosting a FinOps meetup event. And if I think back, this is probably about 8 months ago now. And at the time I was thinking to myself, geez, I'm really not sure because I can't even organize my daughter's birthday party properly, let alone organize a FinOps meetup event. But I'm so glad that I did it. Absolutely great learning experience throughout the whole process. I've got so much support from the foundation, and there's a lot of people from the community as well, just wanting to get in and help and also contribute as well. And at the end, it was really, really satisfying to finally see the community come together to share ideas and just get to get to know each other and talk about Club FinOps. Sorry, JR, next slide, please. So it was Melbourne's first official FinOps Foundation Meetup event. And we held it at our office, our ANZ headquarters in Melbourne. Had a really, really good turnout, a great time as well. And it was much better than I initially anticipated because, as you know, Melbourne is just such a small community as well. And we only had a handful of practitioners. And given it was also on a Friday, most people like myself like to work from home on Friday, so I wasn't expecting too much. And on top of that, those of you who know Melbourne well, we have a very, very unique weather pattern as well, which is very unpredictable. And then a normal day like today, it was raining this morning. Now it's brilliant out there. We typically go have about 4 different seasons. So I wasn't really quite sure what the turnout was going to be like, but luckily, thanks to the weather, we had about 42 people attended out of 55 who registered. So a really, really good turnout. And we had people coming from all sort of industries. We've got tech firms, we've got banking sectors, we've got entertainment group, retail group, insurance, and a lot more as well. And people from all kind of backgrounds as well. Some of those has been practicing cloud financial management for many, many years. And some of those were very new to Club FinOps who just want to come and learn more about FinOps. So a really, really good mix of attendees. Next slide, please, JR. We had 3 presenters. We got Surya and Bas from Atlassian. Came and spoke about the foundations of an effective tagging strategy. Sorry, the previous slide, JR. And we have Roger Schubin came and share their success stories on the FinOps journey as well. And also Mike Fuller just closing off with some highlights from FinOps X and also what's new on the FinOps roadmap into 24. So really good speakers with really good content, which drive quite a lot of good conversations at the end as well. Sorry, back to the next slide, JR. Just on this one personally, it was really good to have Nat to come and share about the FinOps journey. Because this one particularly relevant to me. I invested over 3 years of really hard-earned efforts at NAB with a bunch of really passionate people maturing that journey. And so it was super, super rewarding for me to hear Roger sharing that journey, sharing the story with the community. So really, really proud of the achievement. And just so you know as well, Roger was my boss when I was leading the Club FinOps team at NAB as well. So having his support was also the reason behind the success as well. I'll just quickly touch on the key takeaway as well. Roger spoke about the importance of having that executive sponsorship and alignment, really providing that top-down support and ensuring that the FinOps goal aligns to the broader organization objectives, and also having a dedicated or active FinOps driver that actively advocating for FinOps, implementing policies and guardrails, and actively driving the necessary uplifts that are required to mature the practice. And also pushing up the push adoption approach with actionable data. I think this is where you really leverage data-driven approach that that JR talked about earlier on the whole definition and the framework as well, leveraging data-driven approach to help you in gaining that buy-in from teams and also stakeholders. It's really about building that trust, especially at the start of your journey as well. But also more importantly, you really want this data to be delivered to the hands of those that can really influence on the implementation of your FinOps initiative and in a really timely manner as well. Hence why the push approach or the push adoption is also really key. And also lastly is really striking that balance between the FinOps-led centralization and also empowering your decentralized teams to really take the ownership and accountability of their cloud cost as well as their resource usage. So it was a great presentation for NAB and of course all the other presenters as well. But this one, there was no slide for NAB. It was really just a free form talk track, which makes it quite interesting and also really, really engaging as well. Next slide, please, JR. And this is just a few pictures that we took at the event, and you can probably see that everyone was having a great time. There was a lot of good conversations, and I can tell you, everyone at that event was very, very passionate about FinOps, and I think this is exactly what this kind of event is all about bringing people together, come and share ideas, share learnings, and talk about how we can all increase the value of cloud. So just in closing, JR, next slide, please. I am planning to host another in-person meetup event, targeting end of Q1. So please do stay tuned. And for those of you who know me, I am very, very passionate about what I do. I love FinOps. I love this community. And for me, I've learned so much actually from this community as well. And so I'm really keen to help grow this community and share what I've learned as well. So please do get involved, reach out. And if you have topics that you'd like to share on the upcoming Melbourne Meetup event, please do reach out to either myself or Regina as well. That's all I have. Thanks, Jack.
Yeah, and I'm smiling just listening to you because I've watched your journey over the last 4 years. It's been really, really incredible, and it's great to see your passion in this. It sounds like, yeah, a lot of great people at that event. It looked like there was also a lot of great cold wine at that event. I saw everybody looked really happy with their glasses there. So hey, folks, we went, which is very like us. 4 years of doing this, we still do it. We went way over on time. We're still within the time we had planned, but we had planned for networking at this point, and we had so many great stories to share with you. So we're gonna open it up now for folks to chat, ask questions. We're gonna make it so you can unmute yourselves. Reminder of the code of conduct: please say hi, share your thoughts, share your questions, leave room for others, be kind, all those things. Please don't do sales pitches. Even though we're close to the end of time, I'm going to stay on for another 15 or 20 minutes. If anybody else wants to chat, we'll open it up for conversations. A couple quick reminders. Please take the State of FinOps survey. Please consider getting FinOps certified. That's how this community supports itself, along with the great contributions from our vendor members. Please consider FinOps X. And with that, I'm going to open it up so folks can unmute themselves and ask questions or have a chat or say hi and introduce yourself. JR here from the FinOps Foundation. Thank you for watching. Please go to FinOps.org if you want to get plugged into this amazing community. And of course, hit subscribe right here on YouTube to get all the future content. Hope to see you soon.